What does a healthy organization invest into data security? How much of that is in IT specifically? This video will answer these questions and help show what that looks like. Most business owners have the same question about IT and security. They look at their invoices, see a big number, and wonder if they are overspending or quietly underfunding something critical. There's no single magic number that fits every business, but there are some solid benchmarks you can use as a sanity check. Think of your IT budget as a slice of your revenue. Across multiple studies, most small and mid-sized businesses land somewhere in the 3 to 7% of revenue range for total IT spending. Research that looks at companies under the 50 million in revenue often show IT spend around 4 to 7%. As companies get larger, that percentage usually comes down a bit, with mid-sized organizations often in the 3 to 5% range and very large enterprises sometimes closer to 2 to 4%. In other words, the more revenue you have to spread fixed technology costs across, the smaller the percentage slice tends to look. Beyond that smaller IT slice, security is the broader goal. With the broader program and the larger budget, IT spend on hardware, networking, and software licensing could be half or less of their overall data security program, which should also include preventative services like firewalls, identity management, MFA, and proactive initiatives such as ongoing user training, business continuity planning, among others. If a company is spending 5% of its revenue on security in total, it would not be unusual to see 0.5% to 1% of that total revenue going specifically to IT. It helps to put real numbers to this. If a business brings in $2 million in annual revenue and follows the middle of those ranges, total IT might land around 4 to 6% of revenue. That would be roughly $80,000 to $120,000 a year on all technology, depending on where you are in the world. That level of investment might be close to hiring a full-time junior IT administrator or a part-time senior or consultant level staff. If 12 to 15% of that IT budget is going to security, that is somewhere in the $10,000 to $18,000 range focused on things like firewalls, endpoint protection, backups, monitoring, and security services. The exact split will change based on your risk, your industry, and how much you outsource, but the math gives you a realistic frame to compare against rather than guessing. The important thing to remember is that these are averages, not rules. A software company, a bank, or a healthcare organization might sit well above the typical range because technology and data are at the heart of the business and the regulatory expectations are higher. A small professional services firm with simple needs might sit at the low end of the range and still be perfectly healthy. It's a lot like maintaining a building. Every building needs basic maintenance, utilities, and insurance, but a warehouse and a jewelry store do not spend the same amount on locks, cameras, and alarms. The risk profile changes the level of security you budget for. However, in practice, it's best to pay attention to your actual needs. If you consistently come in far below the typical ranges, you're probably not saving money in the long term. You're more likely shifting the cost into downtime, slow systems, staff frustration, or higher impact when something breaks or a security incident hits. On the flip side, simply throwing money at tools without a plan is not helpful either. This is how organizations end up with shelfware that no one uses, installed checkbox security programs that offer no actual protections. You can overspend on overlapping products, underinvest in basics like backups and monitoring, or ignore training for your staff. The real goal is not to hit a perfect number. It's to make sure your spending lines up with your risks, your compliance requirements, and what you actually need to keep the business running safely. Several helpful frameworks exist, from NIST and CIS, for example, to help you stay focused on the overall security strategy while still controlling the policies and guidance alongside the technical details. We'll link some of those below. In fact, that could be made even easier by partnering with an MSP. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to see how your IT and security spending stacks up against the averages and whether it fits your business, we can walk through that together and give you a straightforward view of where you stand.